pay a woman, you pay the family off, you give them all this money, they give you that woman, you can violate her the rest of your life. That's the arrangement. He didn't want that. He just wanted one night with her. He gave her the same amount of money.
He gave her one kid. That was the purchase price. One kid. That's not setting her up for life. That's like 2 or 3 days worth. Doesn't the Torah say he gave her one kid?
Yeah, but that was from one night. See, the Torah, the Medrash says that was a miracle that she was able to pull. Let's talk about what she was doing. Let's talk about what she was doing. She was trying to get this kid that he owed her.
Yeah.
He owed her that. He owed her a kid, right? She turned the tables on him and got him to bang her directly because he wasn't going to do it otherwise. And from that, she did the levirate marriage, right? How come she got pregnant on that one time? The Gemara, the Medrash says that was a miracle, because maybe like they banged a few times and they're still not pregnant, right? I mean, if every single time a guy did it one time with a woman, they got pregnant. Wow, would we see a whole different society? That would sell rubbers in a hurry, wouldn't it? That would sell rubbers. Okay, now, she's not allowed to marry anybody else, so she gets this kid from him. She's happy, right? Then you talked about, then she said, burn him like a witch.
Yeah, Judah said when he found out that Tamar was pregnant, he said, she's a hoe, burn her.
Okay, can I explain that part?
Burn her.
Will you let me explain that part?
Yeah.
Okay. I said to you before that the halacha is that without a chalitza, she's not allowed to marry into another family. Right? Would you agree to that?
Yeah.
He discovered she's a hooker. He assumed he's not the first customer, right? There's a lot of other men she's banged, and she's not allowed to halachically be with anybody outside of his family without a chalitza. She never had a chalitza. Therefore, according to the halacha back then, this is interesting, by the way, because the Torah doesn't say this. The Torah doesn't say this. The Torah relaxes on this one. But back then, it's chayav misa. It's a death penalty, and the death penalty is through burning, which is charifa, right? Which was burning, which is one of the 4 types of the death penalty. So she's chayav misa because she transgressed this yivamos. She needs a chalitza, and she went outside the marriage. After Matan Torah, after the Torah was given, there's no more death penalty for this. This is just considered a lav, and the lav is that she had sex with somebody. All of this is we're going to talk about that in a second too. But back then, before Torah was given, apparently it was the halacha was that it's chayav misa if you have one of these relationships without having a chalitza first. She apparently, in Judah's eyes, had done that. So he's saying, "Wow, she went out. She never had a chalitza. She's supposed to be stuck as a aguna to our family, and she goes out." He didn't know that it was his 2 sons that did the thing. So she goes, wait a minute, that's not true at all. And she turns the tables on him and says, no, I was only there for one person, and it is for you I was with, because you owe me now she starts to spell her case. You owe me the levirate marriage. You won't give me your son. You won't do it yourself. You've turned me into an aguna. I can no longer be with anybody. You won't give me a chalitza, and I'm stuck. Right? And it's not my fault. So you're trying to say that because the first 2 sons died, therefore I'm a black widow? No! Your sons pulled out and they shot their wad all over my face. Right? And that's why God killed them. And that's why Yehuda says, oh my God, you're more righteous than I am. Right? Because now I see what the problem was. You aren't the black widow killing my sons. It was God killed them because they blew their wad all over you.
Will Hashem kill me if I blow my wad on some girl's face?
Oh, we're going to talk about that. Okay. We're going to talk about that. Okay. We're going to talk about that. There's one of the things I want to talk about is the coitus interruptus and that whole thing, which is it's related to what we were talking about last week in terms of what can men and women do when they're married sexually. Right. And the other thing I want to talk about was
masturbation.
Masturbation. Also. Premarital sex, because I saw you wrote some crap about premarital sex too. We're going to get into this piece by piece. Okay, but do you understand where I'm coming from? You understand now a little bit about the story? Does it start to penetrate, or are you paying attention to the chat room?
Yeah, no, I'm getting it.
It doesn't make sense? You see why I was getting excited when I was reading your stuff? I was like, oh my god, we're talking about Siddiqui, and we're talking about health and thing, and you've like made them all out to be like, hookers and
sex-crazed maniacs.
You're like everything here is happening. It's
ill.
like sunset and Gower on a Saturday night at 2 in the morning. It's like and of course, baby knows exactly about what I'm talking about. Why? I don't know. All right. So which one do you want to talk about? You want to talk about men and women once they're married and coitus and masturbation and all that, or do you want to talk about premarital sex? Which one do you want to go with? What do you want to go to now?
Why don't you catch your breath, and I'll just read some of my points.
Okay, I want to write it down because I want to make sure we come back to these if we don't get to them.
You can go ahead and.
No. I want to write down the things that we didn't. Let me have a pen. Can I use this?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's coitus interruptus we have to talk about.
The Outscroll says, of his own free will, Judah would never have united with Tamar, so an angel forced him into the path of a harlot to begin the creation of the Davidic dynasty.
True.
So when Anan spills his seed, does this mean coitus interruptus, or does it mean unnatural intercourse? Maybe he was having anal with her.
No. There's nothing wrong with anal. Coitus interruptus is a problem.
Can anal fulfill your obligations as a levirate?
No, because you have to create a kid.
Okay.
All right.
How on earth did the Talmudic rabbis say that the sin of Onan was masturbation, and thereby prohibit masturbation?
They never said that.
To read this story and to say it is the sin of masturbation is to read the text wrong in a desire to prohibit something you don't like.
No. Here's what I wrote to that. Ready? Barf. What you did was just read the text, fit your own weird explanations into it, and you're doing exactly what you accused the rabbis of doing. No one ever said that Onan's sin was masturbation. You will never find that in Torah, not in the Talmud, not anywhere. That is not the problem. You said the Talmudic rabbis have a completely... Did you say that they have a completely different attitude towards sex?
I'll read that paragraph. Talmudic rabbis have a completely different attitude towards sex and masturbation than the Torah. Talmudic rabbis prohibit any non-marital sex, including masturbation. Torah does not prohibit premarital sex. All prostitutes in the Torah are portrayed positively. Torah is not hung up with sex. Talmudic rabbis in the New Testament appear hung up about sex when considered in contrast with the Torah. Okay,
first of all, then the first point is what the rabbis say is Torah. The Talmudic rabbis have a different attitude than the Torah. What the rabbis say is Torah. All they do is put up fences around the Torah to prevent us from transgressing them. I'll get into that in a second. You said that the rabbis prohibit in non-marital sex, including masturbation, and the Torah does not prohibit premarital sex. That is patently false. It's a prohibition which is inferred from a positive commandment. God says in Deuteronomy 24:1, and I want you to look it up, if a man marries a woman and is intimate with her, that's what it says. This is a mitzvah of marrying a woman before living with her. Premarital sex is a violation of that mitzvah because it means that you could have sex with her before you live with her. And that is not allowed according to the Torah. That is not the rabbis. That is God saying it.
That's a real stretch.
It's not a stretch. There's a common rule in Torah that's called a law that comes from a mitzvah saseh. That when the Torah says a mitzvah saseh that you have to do a certain thing, if you do the opposite of it, it's considered that you violated it. For instance, tzitzis. Tzitzis. You don't have to wear tzitzis. You don't have to wear tzitzis. But if you wear a four-cornered garment, you must wear tzitzis. Right? Now what if you wear a four-cornered garment and you don't wear tzitzis? You transgress the mitzvah. Because the mitzvah says, if you have a four-cornered garment, you must have tzitzis. Which means if you wear a four-cornered garment and you don't have tzitzis on it, you transgressed a mitzvah saseh. But you don't have to wear tzitzis. You don't have to wear a four-cornered garment. Right? That's a mitzvah aseh. That's a positive commandment to wear tzitzis and there's a law of a negative commandment that comes from it that you would say is a stretch.